And we're back with Any Bloody Thing. I'm Travis Shuchuk.
I'm Braden Croft, and we got a few topics we want to hit on today.
Yeah, like The Mimic, Guillermo Del Toro movie being made into a TV series, and the Resident Evil movies, which I love, all coming out on as a 4K set now.
Yeah, and we got the prequel that wasn't produced, written by John Saxon, one of the original actors in Nightmare on Elm Street. The prequel to A Nightmare on Elm Street.
That's cool.
Stay tuned if you want to check it out.
All right. Well, I'm thinking that's kind of where we start. So, The Mimic. Now that's a movie.
Okay, I haven't seen that forever, man.
I think they did 3 of them, but one theatrical release and the other ones were straight to video.
So Del Toro's was released theatrically.
Del Toro's was released theatrically, and great movie, man. Like, it is. I truly believe that's an underrated gem. And
did he make that after Kronos?
Yes, I believe that was his first bigger studio film. That was kind of his chance to.
That was his Hollywood break.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's damn good, man. Like, and if you rewatch it, it's a solid film, and it reminds me of a lot of Alien. It's got these kind of. It reminds me of so many movies that I like, but yet it's 100% its own. Guillermo he gets a bit of his flair in there. It's not as kind of, I don't know, his stuff gets a little whimsical and interesting and very visual, which not quite like that yet, but the bugs are really the whole premise is these the bugs that there's this virus, and they end up engineering these bugs to go in, and these bugs end up mutating and getting bigger. And
set in New York, was it?
It's set in New York, and largely in the subway system. And these bugs end up growing, and they start adapting to their environment, mimicking humans.
Right, sound-wise, right?
Yeah, so they've got this kind of mask thing that they evolved that can look like a human face, so it kind of uses as camouflage. Their wings go in like a trench coat, so it kind of looks like a dude on the subway. So from a distance, they kind of get around at night and stuff, and they look kind of like a guy in a trench coat.
That's so hard 90s X-Files episode right
Absolutely.
there. Yeah.
And it's such a creature feature in some ways, but it's done really well, and it's got Mira Sorvino in it, and it's a good movie, and the creatures are really cool too, really cool.
So did they defeat them by finding a giant shoe to just step on these fuckers?
Oh, it took more than a fucking shoe. There's a lot of bullets involved at points, but it's not overly action heavy, and it's not. It still keeps the suspense. And so yeah, no, I love the movie, underrated, and actually my dad owns a bunch of the creature stuff from that too. He owns the main animatronic bug.
So the face itself?
No, the whole bug.
Full size,
like a 7 foot tall fucking cockroach. It's creepy. It's really cool. And he's got 2 versions. He's got the animatronic bug one that's got all the and they've got different rod puppet arms that do different actions and stuff like that. It's got animatronic mandibles, and it moves around. It's on a dolly too. And then he's got the one that Doug Jones wore, I believe, which has got a pullover mask that is the incognito mode one, where he's got the wings as kind of thing. So they would have actors doing that, and then for all the close-ups of the bug ear bits, then it would be an animatronic. Really cool thing.
Totally random question for you.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen a proper cockroach?
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
They're quite
Canada,
a thing. We don't get them here really that much.
In Alberta, do we get them here?
In Alberta, I don't even think at all.
I freak if I see something the size of a dime.
Yeah.
Whereas when I was in New York last,
Yeah.
I saw a cockroach come out of the bottom of a dumpster, and it was just
yeah.
It was huge. It was massive.
Yeah, when you're not used to seeing bugs like that, it's we're pretty lucky where we're from that way. But
shit. Yeah.
So in the TV series, this is all really new, so there's not a hell of a lot of details, but Paul W.S. Anderson, the guy that did the Resident Evil stuff, Event Horizon.
Yeah. Event Horizon, most underrated horror movie I've ever seen.
We could talk about that again. It's really, really, it's damn good.
Yeah.
So it has me interested, because he's also supposed to do directing on the pilot for sure. Okay. And then and I think he's kind of involved with the whole development of this, so it could be really. I'm interested. Cool. I'm really interested, and my love for the films it's got me looking apprehensively, but at the same point I'm thinking maybe could be just the thing we're looking for right now.
And
so
it's just enough low key that it's not so popular that
Exactly.
no one will be pleased with it.
exactly.
It's kind of a forgotten.
It's not
gem.
like doing like a Hellboy TV show where people
Right.
are instantly pissed off or loving it over the top without even seeing it and
a
getting
no-win scenario.
those expectations that they'll never live up to.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I
Was
think
that Kobayashi? Is that the Star Trek? The
Yeah,
no-win
yeah,
scenario?
yeah.
You got a
can't
Kobayashi
win it.
series, bro.
Yeah.
You're not gonna win.
No, and it's true. So, and that's kind of what happened to the Hellboy movie, the follow-up with, it's just people, I mean, when you have something you love that much and it's not that long after, and it didn't go quite the way that they kind of hoped. But, anyways, with that, and then also, speaking about, with the Resident Evil stuff, same director that did, I think, every one of the films in the franchise.
Yeah, with his. Well, I don't think they were married before.
They weren't in the first one or second, but eventually Mila Jovovich becoming them getting married.
It's like
Love her, she's awesome.
a goddess of cult cinema.
Oh yeah,
God.
she pulls off action in that way that I always enjoy. She's always a badass, and she looks good doing it. It's just
And that highly, I feel it's like a very hot topic with that leather-clad action film, kick-ass bitch. Where on one side you could see it as really empowering, and then the other side sees it as exploitative.
But
I don't know where I sit on that, but
I'm cool with it. It's like it's comic booky in nature, right? Like they're. What's the difference between that and Black Widow or any? It's just that stylized vibe. It's like Underworld.
It's kind of like The Crow, the male or the female version of The Crow. He's like kind of half naked, really tight leather shit on,
badass stuff, whatever, right? So
I'm cool with that.
Those are going to be all coming out in a box set in 4K. I'm excited because now I'm obsessed with buying 4K shit because once I had the ability to play 4K movies on a 4K TV, and I know me and Jenna, we watched the Bram Stoker's Dracula 4K release, and that being a real soft spot for me because that's one of my top movies. I love that. Beautiful film.
If it wasn't directed by the guy that made arguably the best film ever, The Godfather, The Godfather Part 2,
sure,
I'm pretty sure it would be lauded as one of the best, not only genre pieces, but just stylistic movies ever made.
Yeah.
But
100%. But at the same point, I mean, it kind of follows suit with his work, right? Like, it was his take on a horror movie, and I love it, man. And everything about it it's just a beautiful film. But there was so much shit that we'd missed. Like, even in Blu-ray, there were elements that I did not see.
How so?
I would say set deck and costume elements and these little details, even things in the makeup, the shit that you would miss, little veins that you would barely see. Now you can oh shit, I'm really appreciating the level of work in the art stuff. Yeah. Oh yeah, and even the castle, you were seeing it. It's like a dude on a throne, but you really know the shapes and stuff. We'll have to watch it sometime. Maybe even do a reacts or something to it. Or just a watch party thing, whatever. I think it would be definitely worth it. But I know you love that film, and it's one of those ones that you got to see in 4K. But
so the Resident Evils in 4K, you're saying you're expecting to see some shit like that, stuff you've never noticed before. I mean, because I also watched Alien in there, and it's the same thing. I was picking out shit. Now these movies are shot in a higher res than right off the bat. Well, not real film, but but. Usually the transfer, you would get some noise, you would get more grain, you would get this, that, whereas these movies are already shot a little cleaner. I've noticed, when I'm watching some of these brand new, especially shit that's already shot in 4K, it's just, ridiculous looking, but so fucking perfect. A proper 4K scan versus a 720p
DVD. Yeah.
And those look pretty good for what they are.
And they do, and that's the thing. So it's just, but I'm, always, appreciating those little details, right? I know half of these movies I'm going to own, 10 copies of the goddamn thing, and then they'll release the extra bonus feature version that has the director's cut and some other shit.
It's that's the same case. I think I have 3 versions of Jaws, Silence of the Lambs, Alien, Night of the Living Dead.
Oh, I just bit off one of those. Scream Factory did the crazy Jason, Friday the 13th, every fucking imaginable bit in there with all the movies, which were kind of hard to get. Because there was, I think there must have been licensing or some shit with Jason Goes to Hell, and I think Jason X, and some of that was so. It's going to be all in one. It comes with posters, all that shit. So
it's surprisingly
But there again,
hard.
I own how many of these, how many times, but
there's something always that comes out, and it's so hard to find, and it shouldn't be like this. The original film, the way it was supposed to be seen, in the format it was supposed to be seen.
Yeah.
Like Lost Highway, for instance, I owned on DVD for the longest time, and I was like, there's something weird about the framing, like even as a young kid. And then I saw Pan and Scan, and I didn't know what that meant as like a 12-year-old.
Sure, well, yeah.
But when I grew up, and I was like, wait a minute, they re-released it since 1996, I think, when it was first released, and it was in its original version, which is, typical 2:3:5 aspect ratio.
Sure.
So it blew my mind, and the more you see it, even like The Shining, you could watch on a streaming network, and it'll fit 6:9.
Yeah.
Or 16:9 or whatever.
Sure.
Yeah. It'll fit your TV, and it looks fine. You don't notice it, but the original shot was in, I believe, 4:3, which is much more square.
Oh yeah.
So I don't know, man. I feel like I'm getting robbed on these things, and that's why we end up owning so many versions of the film.
It's so true. It's so true. Well, like Star Wars. Like those movies, how many how many versions where they just tweak a little bit of a thing and then like shit that you didn't even know about, and like, oh man, and then they'll re-release, like I heard they're releasing a clean version with their original 70, like.
Yeah, just leave it alone. Even if it's flawed, leave it alone.
Yeah, I mean, you did it. You made it. It was a hit. Just be happy with it, but...
I don't see any win in changing it, because the people that you've already won over with the original love it as it is.
Yeah.
And the people that are watching it again aren't going to be wowed by these updated effects in a 1970s film.
I know. I wonder if it's actually, and they did a crazy ass 4K set of that with like 1 million discs and all that. They may have the original just theatrical cut. No bullshit.
I'm sure Disney will.
I would actually like to see it, because I don't even remember. Like, I haven't seen that since being a child, right? Because
the original Star Wars.
Yeah, like with the original cuts and all that shit, like the without all the digital shit adding. Because like when we were pretty young, it was in the 90s, like mid to like 96 or something, that they did like that re-theatrical release where they added in some shit and then put it back in theaters.
I got the original VHS ones that were sold at some point in the 80s, I believe. It was a box set with Return of the Jedi being the last one, of course.
Yeah.
And I remember having that, and everyone was making this big deal, like, oh, you can't buy the originals without this new, bullshit CG in here.
It's true.
What are you talking about? I got a VHS set right here. That
I question if I have any of those still.
Yeah. E.T. was another one.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm trying to show my wife the original E.T., because she's seen it so long ago she doesn't remember.
Sure.
But I refuse to watch the ones with the radios. What is that?
It just, I don't know. Why is this needed?
Like, kids' movies back in those days, they had guns, they had shit like that.
Yeah.
I don't care about radios, man.
Yeah. Oh, I know. It's ridiculous why they would need to feel like that had to be. It was already a huge family-friendly hit, and then you just have to... Yeah, but no, it hasn't aged well. We should make it less implied violence. It's not like they're killing.
All right, I don't even know if it's a marketing play, because we're sitting here like, why doesn't Hollywood give us the film as it was intended?
Yeah.
And they're like, we know you want that, so we're going to give you something you don't want, something else you don't want, and then finally 20 years later, we're going to cash in the fourth time you buy the movie with the stuff you did want in the first place.
It's like making a really good flavor for a limited time only. And then...
That's evil.
It is evil.
It takes long enough to get something that tastes good at a fast food joint.
Yeah.
It's like 3 years since you get like a new product at McDonald's, but it's limited time.
Yeah.
You're trying to create
like
value
that McRib bullshit.
Yeah.
Like why?
Don't toy with my emotions like that.
All right. What do we got with this John Saxon? I'm very interested in this.
Yeah. Okay.
And I haven't looked into this. Like when you mentioned it, and I kind of heard, but like so I'm fresh here.
This was fresh, like latrine reading.
Mm-hmm.
I just popped up on my phone, but I saw John Saxon. As everyone knows, he's a very classic character actor since like 60s.
Yeah.
He's in everything. He's the guy's, you know his face, but you may not know his name.
Because he was like in like Enter the Dragon and shit. Like we're talking like
stuff that I'm
forever ago. Yeah. So he's been in the
It's a long ass time. So the AV Club actually posted about it. I think that was the first time that at least I heard of it. The first little bout, but they didn't really comment too much on it.
Sure.
So that was in 2017.
Yeah.
Bloody Disgusting picked it up again, and I guess they read about it. So, I mean, props due to Bloody Disgusting. They're always breaking these things. So I'm relaying what I learned through that.
Okay.
So John Saxon playing Lieutenant Donald Thompson in the film, he wrote this with that character in mind. So he was returning as a character. This was set in 1969, so not 1984.
Sure.
And it follows him. It starts out he's trying to find his eldest daughter, Betsy, who we never meet in the film, the original Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah.
She's with a hippie commune thing. He goes to rescue her. There's a little bit of a weird Manson vibe going on.
Okay.
And he takes her home. She's the mom who we know, Marge. She's the alcoholic. We kind of see like seedlings of the trouble within the family.
Sure.
She doesn't care for Betsy, who's her stepdaughter.
Oh, okay.
And her daughter with John Saxon character, Nancy.
Yeah.
She's just a little girl.
Okay.
So she cares about her. She doesn't care about the elder daughter. She's troubled. So Donald Thompson, John Saxon's character, takes Betsy to a therapist. F. Krueger.
Okay.
On Elm Street. What can go wrong, right?
Interesting. That's a different spin, hey?
Oh, it's going to take another spin pretty soon here.
Ooh.
Yeah. So, LSD, there's this weird thing with LSD, of course, 1969, it was a big thing.
Yeah.
And there's a little bit of like a pedophile, weird relationship that Saxon wrote into this, I don't know, character bit. We look at it now and we're like, ugh.
Oh, okay.
But what happens is he sends her to Krueger.
Yeah.
She arrives there, she's on LSD.
Yeah.
And she starts disclosing these things like these feelings for her father.
Okay.
It's very kind of strange.
That's a little off, yeah.
Yeah, right. They're playing with like his Krueger, like trying to coax her into talking about these violent things.
Oh, okay.
Something messed up with Krueger.
Sure.
But nothing explicit happens.
Yeah.
Out and about in the town, kids are starting to get murdered by a unique object that, has multiple protrusion. So stab wounds. At the same time, multiple. What could it be? So
the audience at this point is going, okay, we were getting the claw hand going here.
Exactly.
Okay.
So these things start popping up. Betsy keeps getting more treatment, and at some point in the script, Officer Thompson gets dosed with LSD by his daughter, Betsy. Krueger shows up, and they have a little conversation. He starts tripping balls. So because you got to ask yourself, how can you deliver the Nightmare on Elm Street promise of, nightmare, hallucination things? Well, you do it through LSD trips.
Sure.
Pretty clever, in my opinion.
Well, yeah, because Freddy is still human. He doesn't have any ability. Like, there's no magical powers involved here. There's no, okay. So, that makes sense. That's about one of the only ways that you could actually do that without kind of implying paranormal.
Exactly. And then the officer, so John Saxon wakes up in his daughter's bed, in his underwear. She's there in a kimono. Yeah, you're immediately thinking like, where is this going? And she starts to blame Krueger, saying that Krueger is dosing her with LSD, which is, as far as we know, is not substantiated yet.
Yeah.
But whatever. This enough to piss off the dad.
Okay, yeah.
Of course. So more murders occur, and eventually Betsy reveals that the town kids in the high school are calling this guy Dr. Sleep. Or not Sleep, Dr. Deep.
Oh, okay.
So Krueger is Dr. Deep, and it keeps getting plugged and plugged and plugged.
Yeah.
I think John Saxon's character starts to suspect something's going on.
Yeah.
Kid murders, this guy, everyone seems to know him, what's going on. Eventually, it reaches a fever pitch when Betsy's found murdered.
Oh, okay.
So the dad's really pissed. They get all drunken up and all that stuff, and they get vigilante justice. We all know where the story's going here.
Sure. Boiler room.
Totally. So it's not in the boiler room. Apparently it's in a cabin that Krueger owns. And they douse him, and he's saying, you guys have to forgive yourself. It's your fault the kids are, not in line. You don't know what they're doing. It's not me. He's professing his innocence. They don't listen to him. They burn him alive.
Yeah. And
sure enough, in the end, one of these hippie chicks from the commune is in custody, and she admits that their leader, this Manson-esque cult guy, is killing these people. And it wasn't Krueger at all.
Wow, okay.
So the movie...
See, that I kind of like now. Like, that part. Like, there's some bits in there where I'm like, like, that's such a departure. But at the same point, now his revenge is even, like...
It's...
more just. in a way, because before he's such a despicable fucking guy. Like,
as villainous as you can get.
Look, how can we make him worse? He's a child-killing pedophile, just piece of garbage.
Yeah.
And now he's a guy that was unjustly killed by a mob that took justice in their own hands, led by a police officer.
Yeah.
Which is also really
who has the means to cover
this up. Who has the means to cover it up. And now this town is living with this dirty, terrible secret.
Which makes sense because,
yeah.
I mean, whether he was a pedophile or not, like, if you kill someone, I'm sure you don't want that getting out.
Well, yeah.
But even more so if that person's innocent.
Yeah.
Interesting, right?
Very interesting. I kind of, yeah.
So it ends with John Saxon's character having nightmares, the mom having nightmares about what they did, and then Nancy having nightmares. She's starting to see visions already of what we'll all know as Freddy Krueger.
That's cool. Yeah, you could leave a cliffhanger ending too with some.
So what's your take on that? Do you think, would that have been a better way to go, or do you enjoy having that angle of him being the blackest of villains?
Shit, man, that's actually a tough question because I see merit in both, and hard merit in both. Because when he's just the most despicable guy, well, that's fine. He's a bad villain. He's that character. He's fun to hate.
Mm-hmm.
But now you're almost giving him a spin. Like, he's still despicable because he's killing all these people that didn't do anything to him, but it's vengeance because it's the children of the bloodline of people that did very horribly wrong him. Yeah, very. I don't know. I actually like it. It's kind of cool. It almost gives it that one more layer of crazy. It's kind of it makes the people bad. It's kind of a Romero-y vibe that way, where it's like, well, okay, well, the humans are like, it kind of makes them worse than Freddy because he didn't even do anything. He was just an innocent man that got totally screwed.
It kind of puts a spin on it, a more contemporary spin of these ghost stories we see.
Yes.
Like The Ring, The Grudge.
Yeah.
Where you find out of an injustice done to these, deadly ghosts, which really Freddy is kind of an avenging ghost. Mm-hmm. And it's a detective process.
Yeah.
You find out what happened, you expose the truth.
I guess you could still make that movie, though.
Yeah. I think that's where they probably would have taken it. If that was the case, it would be the young kids not just destroying the evil presence of Freddy. They would probably have to unearth the truth. Some sort of redemption thing goes on, and then he fades away as a memory, and now his soul could rest because he's being, exonerated. So I don't know.
I like it. I mean, I'm glad it exists. I wouldn't mind reading it at some point.
Yeah, it's pretty gnarly.
I wonder if it's floating around out there, or if it's kind of hard to get your hands on.
Freddy's Dead. Was that the 5th one or the 6th one in the series? It was the 5th, right?
That is a good question. I think
that was the one when they showed a little bit more of him. Robert Englund was a young man.
Yeah, and Alice Cooper was his dad, and you didn't know Alice Cooper? Yeah, Alice Cooper's his dad. He's this redneck guy, and he's like, no, they show him in some of his past when he's got the
No way.
Yeah, rewatch it. Yeah, Alice Cooper's his dad.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I know. I remember as a kid because I'm a huge Alice Cooper fan, and holy shit, Alice! This is the coolest thing because Freddy growing up, Nightmare on Elm Street was my favorite. That was literally the reason. I don't remember if I told people on here, but that was the reason I wanted to get into special effects. I was like a little kid being told that while watching that was people make those monsters, and that's it's all just that's a job, and that whole idea set in with me at that. So Nightmare on Elm Street kind of became a staple for me, and I was obsessed with it, and still love it. And then Alice Cooper, my musical just the icon, still my favorite. And to have him in there, I was just like, oh shit, you just crossed my two worlds. I'm this is the best. So not my favorite Freddy movie, but
You got a very much cooler version of Alice Cooper in a film than when I remember him. I remember him from, was it Wayne's World 1 or 2?
1, yeah.
Yeah, when he meets them and he's talking, I think, about
we're not worthy.
Yeah, the indigenous people of America.
Algonquin, or
And he's just,
this man knows how to party, or whatever,
He knows how to party.
Yeah.
But that's...
Although he was badass playing that Feed My Frankenstein and the cool skeleton thing on stage. He comes out of the rib cage. It was badass.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
So any final thoughts?
I don't know, man.
We kind of hit our topics, man.
I think we hit the topics. We're keeping this one a little bit more short and sweet. And
well, I want to know for the audience too. Like, how do you see the Nightmare on Elm Street prequel? Like, what would you like to see? Does John Saxon's version, is that enticing?
Yeah, do you dig it, or do you kind of not like him tinkering with the history of the character and kind of all that? Because it does rewrite some, obviously, a good portion.
And he would have wrote it before those things happened, so it could have been just how it was had that been made, and we'd never question it at all. But is it better or worse?
I don't know.
Smash the like.
Yeah.
Let us know what you think.
And if you haven't already, subscribe. And we're going to be bringing some more content. We're doing a couple of new things, so keep your eyes open because we're going to be dropping a couple of different videos, something involving, actually, that's one thing I can mention, Tremors. They're doing the Tremors, the new movie, and they've got the Shrieker creatures. And I own parts of the Shriekers from Tremors 2. They're the ones that walk around that are kind of the more chicken body ones. That I guess they're going to be on this new movie, which is... and it's going to be on an island where a rich guy has these creatures, and it's going to be like a game hunting preserve, so like you can go on there. Anyways, but my point with that is, I'm thinking about doing with what we were talking about before, doing a feature little mini docs on some props and costumes that were used in different films.
Yeah, as if people couldn't tell, Travis is kind of into.
I kind of like that stuff. It's a little.
Got some experience in it.
Yeah, it's sickness, really. All right. So we're going to do this one more time, and it's going to go a little something like this. And we're back with Any Bloody Thing. I'm Travis Shoot. Motherfucker. Okay, now we've all fucked up.
All right, now that
we're all good. Let's get that out of the way.